See Nihal with the white pieces. Nihal, very positional player, very quick, as we mentioned. And will he go for traditional stuff, keep the pawn structure classical, or are we going to be seeing something else? These top players, they can play absolutely anything. They can serve with both hands, but he does open with the queen's pawn. And now it is going to be a London system with the bishop coming out. The whole idea is to get a triangle pawn formation and just keep the center solid, and then just get to a nice, safe middle game where white is just a little bit better. I have to say that because it's the London.
Exactly. I played Magnus once in my life in the Pro Chess League, and I was black, of course, and he played the London against me. I forgot the result, but the game was very interesting.
Well, now we have a kind of Jobava London, which is characterized by the knight coming out and jumping, just arguing that black's knight on the edge is going to be misplaced and white's is better prepared. But you see, the triangle formation, that's rock solid. And now the maneuvering has begun.
Both sides have their knight on the side of the board. They're going to try to relocate to the center. White doesn't go for very much of an advantage. Just a solid position. Bishop on f4 is well placed. Are you one of those people that loves the London for white or hates it? You got to be in one of the camps.
Hello, I'm English. I ain't going to say I dislike it. No, I really do like the London. I think it's a great choice because it takes away the fireworks from the opening and it just allows you to enjoy the position in the middle game. And I say enjoy liberally. Okay, so the knight does maneuver itself over towards the center. This is what both sides do when the center lacks tension. And now we're seeing Magnus, he ups the pace. And now there is some conflict in the middle of the board.
Yeah, there's some possible captures. Magnus is gaining some space. He might even play c4 later and b5, gain more space on the queen side. Will white castle here? Will white capture on c5? Those are the moves that Nihal is considering. And Nihal has a time advantage so far. Oh, and he plays h4. Engine doesn't like it. Of course, you like it being British. You like h4. Put it in h. And looks like Harry is having a good time today. h3, h4, soon h5. Take advantage of Magnus's pieces over on the queen side.
Exactly. And wow, what a move. You know, it doesn't come naturally to me, I gotta say, to advance that pawn. I was expecting just a rock solid castle, get the king to safety, and the game continues, blah, blah, blah. But this one is now setting the cat amongst the pigeons because, like, do you want to allow that pawn one square forward? If you don't, then you yourself are going to advance your pawn 2 squares. But this comes with its own concessions because squares are so important. They're like the currency, the money in the position. The more you have, the richer you are.
Yeah, Magnus is thinking now, should I take at the center? Should I advance on the queen side with c4 and b5? Should I block the pawns with h6 or h5? Or should I take advantage of the empty g4 square and play bishop g4? So many possible moves for black. That's why Magnus is having a think. h4, not the most obvious move, but very aggressive. And instead, he attacks the bishop on f4 with knight e6, which is an unusual move because it blocks the bishop on c8. So you have a very unusual position. Bishop e5. Nihal wants to trade the bishops, then play h5 and start attacking Magnus's king. Very aggressive play from Nihal this game.
Very aggressive. You know, he's trying to just weaken the black king, remove the defenders, but Magnus reacting in the center. There's often said that when play starts on the wings, you react in the center. So those are the rules, and Magnus knows them. So I'm expecting white to actually recapture with the center pawn. Because if you capture with the other pawn, the knight on the edge starts to bother me.
That's right. Yeah, and that's why Magnus played knight e6. After the e-pawn takes, Magnus wants to get his knight to f4 at some point after the bishop trade. And the knight on e6 was blocking the bishop. If the black knight can get to f4, that would make more sense. Conversely, Nihal's knight on a3 can now get to the central e3 square via c2 so that the knight isn't so badly placed. So both sides maneuvering their knights from a3 and a6 to the center. Magnus has been doing it. The engine says, black is a little bit better, but white is the one playing aggressively. And because white's playing aggressively, putting Magnus on the back foot, Magnus now has a 2-minute time disadvantage. This is exactly what Nihal wanted.
Yeah, it's a kind of really unusual position, but I gotta say it's a risky play by Nihal as he finds himself perhaps gonna meet a very quick attack against his king. Don't try this at home. Get your king castled. It's so much easier to play chess. Now there's going to be all kinds of issues as the knight drops back. Magnus wants to just accelerate the play. He wants to burst out into the center and just open up the lines, but he's saying not that happy with it.
No, Magnus shaking his head. He didn't like what he did. His knight couldn't go to f4 because Nihal retreated back to d3. One of my favorite squares with white in these queen pawn openings. And now the knight went all the way from a6 to g7. Magnus proving to his fans he can do the knight's tour during the game and still get a winning position. White's position is now slightly better according to the engine. White played h3, h4, h5. That's how they play chess nowadays. Magnus has the beautiful knight in the center. Nihal tries to maneuver his knight back to the center. Magnus moving his knight again. That knight on a6 has gone on quite a journey. Knight a6 to c7 to e6 to g7 to f5. Is Magnus going to keep moving his knight, or is that the last knight move we've seen from Magnus for a while?
Yeah, I think that might be the last one we see for a while, but I really love the way that Magnus is not rushing things. And I say that.
G4, wow.
Whoa, I know. Nihal is really going for it. He's like, hey, make that journey an odyssey. Come forward. What are you going to do? The knight is going to go to the edge of the board or could even go into the middle. Which is the way forward? I mean, instinctively, you want to go forward. You don't want to go back.
Yeah, knight h4 I like as it goes forward. And Magnus does play knight h4. Nihal maneuvers his knight with knight e3. Knight on h4 is sort of trapped, but it's sort of trapped on a good square. Magnus's knights are on excellent squares, e4 and h4. I'm not sure what Nihal's going to do with his king. I wonder if he's going to castle queenside.
Well, this is the thing, because look at this. Nihal is playing in such an uncompromising style. He's more or less forcing Magnus to go on the offensive. And you're right. Where is the white king going? Maybe he should run away to the left as quickly as possible. Get the queen out of the way. Get the king to safety. And then you can reassess.
Reassess your chess. Very unusual game. If somebody just watching the game for the first time, I want to tell you that knight on h4, it was on a6 a few moves ago. Magnus is really moving his knights. Magnus shaking his head. The engine likes this position. d5 is a weak pawn. Magnus defends it. And castling queenside is also risky. Black has the half-open c-file. Black can play b5, a5, attacking Nihal's king. Well, Nihal's king is going to be unsafe no matter where it is. He might just leave it in the center. But the question is, how does Nihal improve his pieces? The engine slightly prefers black because black's knights seem to be better than white's knights. They're more in white's territory. And black has nice, safe king. Even though Magnus played g5, his king is very safe over there since the king side is completely blocked.
You know, it might be time for the golden rule, which is when your king is feeling the heat, trade off the queens. Like step the queen up one square and just say, hey, let's get those pieces off the board and my king can just live in the middle and it's all okay.
Yeah, I think if I was Nihal, I wouldn't mind trading queens because I'm not sure where my king is supposed to go in the long run. Good idea, Yovi.
Well, that's only going to happen if it happens, if Magnus allows the queen trade. But Nihal calculating, big question. Does he try to force the trade of queens? Does he run with the king, just scram to the left? Or is there something else? I just don't see the breakthrough. And
okay, there's a move I wouldn't have predicted. Rook h3.
Keeping us guessing. What is the point of this move? Does he... No, I'm not seeing it.
I'm wondering if he wants to defend the g3 square so he can play f3. It still seems like a strange idea, kicking the knight out of e4. Well, he's not going to castle kingside, Yovi.
No, he's not going to do that anymore. But, you know, you do have to look after the old man. You really do have to take care. And you know, if Magnus were feeling really feisty, He's trying to punish that immediately. You know, you can punish that by going, breaking through with the pawns right now, create the conflict. This is also clever. Just saying, you know, okay, given a miss, but hey, very natural move, saying, hey, if you ever want to find solace with your king in that direction, you're not going to get it because that pawn is marching those squares forward. And there's also no queen trade at all. So
right,
stops
queen before. I like a5 too. I guess humans and computers like different moves. Yovi and I and Magnus all like a5, and the computer says a5 terrible, and also doesn't like a4. I'm really getting worried about Nihal's king. It looks like it doesn't have a safe place to go, and I'm wondering if in the next 5 to 10 moves, Magnus is going to have some attack against that king on e1.
Yeah, but you know, having lifted up that rook rather strangely, you should be consistent, right? A bad plan is better than no plan at all. And so I kind of like your idea of just kicking that knight away from the center, and then I don't know what next.
No, I'm not sure what White's going to do here. Very unusual position. I think for Magnus, just going to try to play b5 at some point, or you can play bishop f7 and e5, break open in the center where White's king is. And again, I like Magnus's position. Magnus has more time. The match is going well so far for Magnus. Seems like he's pretty happy with his position. And White's play very strange. Rook h3, leaving the king on e1, h4, h5. I thought it was going to be a more solid game like you did when he played. I thought he would castle short, put his pieces in the center. And instead he played h4, h5, rook h3, kept his king in the center, making the game more double-edged. But now Nihal's taking a lot of time on the clock because it's not clear what to do. And he does play f3, never play f3.
Yeah, Ben is not a fan, but, you know, why not? And there he drops back with the bishop. And, well, Nihal is playing in such a kind of random way that it's kind of confusing. Even though the engine
yes, I'm very
approve
confused.
And doesn't kind of get blinded by the lights. But I would be very confused as well, because there's a danger that Magnus could get his knights trapped on the edge of the board if he does not continue in the right way.
Yeah, I think Magnus has to play f5 at some point so his knights can get out and he can defend his knights. That's very complicated because it gives e5 to White, weakens the d5 pawn. Magnus is having a thing. Position is very strange. It doesn't look like two super GMs. Looks like two kids playing in a weekend Swiss that don't know the rules very much and just move their knights every move. That's how super grandmasters play sometimes.
Yeah, and they do say that loose pieces drop off. So bear in mind, I just noticed that the rook is loose. And there are tactical ideas of knight takes pawn. And the whole idea is that you can't capture that knight because the rook is hanging. But there again, you have to go into calculation mode. You have to work out what is going to happen. So, okay, it is.
Hey, that's
there.
what you said.
Well, it was there. I'm a greedy person. I like to snatch up pawns. So we're going to see rook takes knight. Now, is this going to be working for Nihal as we see the evaluation bar saying yes? This was a good trade. And wow, the position just got a whole
Well, there's a lot of
lot.
H-pawns in this game. Both sides have H-pawns.
I mean, it's just completely messy. It's so crazy. You know, black is like 2 moves away from promoting the pawn. So you have to act quickly. And how are you going to stop? How are you going to stop that pawn?
How are we
from
going to stop
advancing?
Harry?
Yes,
Yeah, Harry's looking good.
he's looking good. And
The engine says White's doing well, but I'd hate to be White here because that H-pawn is getting pretty close to promotion.
exactly. Okay, he
Wow,
wins.
I was going to say, I don't see a safe place for White's king. And Nihal moves his king out of the way, move his bishop out of the way next, so the rook controls H1.
Well, okay, this is a nice idea. So the whole idea is you're going to stop the pawn from advancing. You can just simply control the promotion square. So Magnus tucks his king into the corner. He's going to use all of his pieces. And I got to say, this is such a dangerous position for both sides. It's not going to be easy playing this with 3 minutes and with a black H pawn on H3. And it's not going to be easy because if black doesn't do anything, then White is slowly going to start to unravel, coordinate.
White does have 2 pieces for a rook,
Exactly.
and Black has that passed H-pawn as compensation. Nihal wants to trade queens because the king is on D2. Engine doesn't like the queen on A3. Very difficult for a human to play here. The position is so unusual with the white king on D2, Black having the passed H-pawn, 2 pieces for a rook. Some of the pieces aren't well placed. Very complicated position. Tough to play for both sides. The engine wants to trade queens, messing up white's pawn structure, then double rooks on the G file, giving black counterplay. Then black can try to play rook G1, get rid of the white rook, and then promote that pawn. And that's what Magnus does. Plays exactly the engine recommendation. Not very shocking. Magnus plays like the engine quite often and messes up white's pawn structure. White has a terrible pawn structure. Black has a passed pawn. Black wants to trade rooks and get that passed pawn going. And Nihal is just hoping the H pawn doesn't promote over the next few moves.
Scary times, I gotta say, for white, because yes, it might be objectively equal, but black's plan is just simply to come in, trade a set of rooks, and then it's going to be very difficult to prevent the advance of the H pawn. So Nihal has to find the right move. I'm wondering whether you even have the time to grab the pawn in the middle.
On D5.
Yes, I mean, that takes guts. But
I was just going to play bishop f1 and try to take that pawn on h3, even though bishop f1 gives away my f3 pawn, my a4 pawn's hanging. There's a lot of pawns that look pretty weak here, Yovi. And he did take the pawn on d5.
Yeah, he goes for broke here, and now only one move to hold the balance. Magnus finds it, of course. And wow. Look
3
at
pieces
this.
for 2 rooks. That gives me bad memories of a game that I played a long time ago.
Okay, but now the question is how to coordinate the pieces. The rooks have to be placed on those open lines, and they have to have a purpose. The 3 pieces, they have to be working together as the knight just comes in, but this allows, this attack, and suddenly the white knights, they are really not coordinated.
No, the knight on d5 is lined up with the king on d2. All of white's pawns are weak on a3, a2. The rooks are super active, more active than the white pieces. And the engine said Magnus has taken over. Magnus has a big time advantage. He has a big advantage on the clock. Says he's winning now. And things are just going Magnus's way. The bishop on e2 is trapped. Can I just play rook? Yeah, attack the bishop and just take the bishop.
Yep, you can do that one, and then you can keep on harassing. Just attack that bishop one more time, slide the rook over, and Magnus, he senses blood. Oh, but hang on a second. Maybe this is not the most precise way, because Nihal is...
No, Nihal saved his bishop. Now it seems like he's okay. Still worse, but maybe he can hold the draw.
Oh, he says 54 seconds on the clock, so Nihal gonna have to play super actively to save this one. The problem is that a-pawn is a runner.
Uh-oh.
Run with the a-pawn. Just
it's
get
tough
it
to stop
marching.
pass pawns when you have 45 seconds on your clock.
No, and how are those pieces going to stop that pawn? It's going to easily get to a2, and then it can just be...
It's funny, Magnus had a passed h-pawn a few moves ago. Am I dyslexic? What happened there? There was a pawn on h3?
He gave it up.
And then now he has a passed pawn on the a file.
Yeah.
Amazing.
This is why Magnus is so good. He doesn't just play on one side of the board. Then comes the a-pawn. I mean, you're going to have to give up one of those pieces to stop that pawn from promoting. And 20 seconds for Nihal.
No, this isn't looking good for Nihal. 15 seconds left. He just closed his eyes, too. That wasn't good. Yeah, he's already given up in his head.
Such a big fight, though. I mean,
5 seconds.
And we have a win.
And he resigns.
Magnus takes the lead.
Wow, what a game. What an unusual game.
It was incredibly unusual.
If you're my student, don't watch that game. It's too complicated for you and for me.
Offbeat variation from
Yes.
Nihal. It was a gamble, I feel, because to play in such an unconventional way against world number